if they do hip in clinic, they just do an AP pelvis, and then they'll do a frog lateral of the affected hip. Okay, that's like standard practice. So this here, show you a couple different places to put the marker in the end. Okay, because again, hip, I'm looking at joint space. Okay, so from here, we're gonna start with AP. I'm gonna fix my collimation. I'll go ahead. 10 and 12. Okay, so find her ACES. She's got great bony landmarks. It's beautiful. So, top of the light field at the ACES. You're actually going to be mid on ACES. Your crosshair ends up being just medial to it on this one, and it ends up hitting with her. This right here, where I'm pressing right now. Great femoral pulses, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
That's so right where my fingers are. This, we don't do this to patients. At the cath lab we do because we're holding pressure. But this right here, I want to make sure I rotate 15. Okay, because again, we still want the femoral necks parallel to the IR. Okay, this ends up just medial, matches that. Most patients, the crosshair hits right at the groin. Most patients. Average patients. Again, as I mentioned before, if you have a patient who has a large belly or a large penis and it comes down, their groin is going to look a lot lower than it is. Okay, so we can't always go by that. You're going to eyeball it in those situations. And your techs in the field, they'll show you a couple of techniques that you can use for that. So, and you also end up pulling a little more mass. I usually generally do AEC with those because of the belly, and it pulls a little more mass on those because it's got more tissue to go through. So, all right, so here we're going just medial, and I can find her trochanter right here. Trochanter going straight across. It's great, love it. And this is what we want. This is where, again, use your light field to your advantage. Top of the light field at the top of the ACES, you are just medial, okay? So even on your AP hips that I have in here, where'd you go? That's femur, I don't want femur. There it is. Okay. I realize this says only entering the femoral neck. This is why I'm telling y'all, you find your ACES and you are medial to it. This crosshair here is ACES. I literally put my ACES here, put a finger down, and I'm literally on that side of it, okay? Because that actually lines you up fairly well with the femoral head itself, okay? All right, changing out from a do marker. Like we did with the pelvis, pop it right here. Yes, this will end up in soft tissue. Not worried about that. You can either put it here or here. One of these two corners when we're doing AP hip, okay? This is the one time it's like, what's inside? This is the one time because we're looking at the joint space, they're not worried about that, okay? All right, so from here, let's take my marker back off for a second. All right, so what I'm gonna get her to do, bend your knee up for me. All right, go ahead and let that fall out to the side. Now, if she can hold this, this is great. If you need to, you can give them this. Put down. Gives them a little support. You can put this under them. Most patients, it's so quick, but usually your older ladies, I tend to put this under here for them. So, all right. So I find my ACES. This is where it's going to get fun. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this. Because again, I know in the book it didn't show that. It comes over because you're literally going for the crease of the groin, and I'm still basically just on it. But again, I want as much here as I can, because if they have a true femoral neck fracture, if they broke their hip, then you want to make sure it hasn't spiraled down. So that's all I'm going to do. Now portables, we're doing these on 14 by 17. Portable hip, you're just gonna do 14 by 17.
Yeah.
Same thing here, I just center and I find ASIS and I'm just medial. If I want to, I can take this down, get the ASIS at the top of my light field again, and I'm just there. So you have that option, or you can do just like it says, you're right in the crease. Okay, and actually, I can actually go right there is right about where femoral neck is for that. Now this one here, I usually, when I do this one, I either put it, again, bottom corner, top corner. Most of the time we'll stick at the top corner because it's less likely to end up in the anatomy. But this is, again, this is one of those, they're not really a whole lot worried about it, but fail safe for a frog lateral, just do it at the top. I'm trying not to put, there are gonna be instances where you do put your marker on your patient, just because of collimation purposes, it won't end up in the light field. That's mainly when we get into spine work, especially L-spine. This one here, be careful putting things on patients because you forget about it. Or if you put something on the patient, they're gonna think you're trying to touch them inappropriately. So just be careful, just be mindful of that, okay? So, but most of us, we can put it right there on the cassette. That would be your frog lateral hip, or your unilateral cleaves, your modified cleaves, okay? Comments, questions, concerns?